09CR491, State of Ohio versus Darrell. Mr. Kane is here on behalf of the defendant, Mr. Vigolucci on behalf of the state. My understanding that after some negotiations on Friday for the pretrial, the defendant has decided to enter a plea today. Is that correct, Mr. Kane?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And you are signing a waiver of your right to the jury trial, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Vigolucci, just for the record, will you please go over the plea negotiations on the record?
Thank you, Your Honor. As the court stated, on Friday, the 26th of February, the state did enter into negotiations with defendant Dukes and his attorney. And in those negotiations, Your Honor, several factors were discussed and considered as to the disposition of Darrell Dukes' case. Among those is the fact that Mr. Dukes did not leave his vehicle and participate in the actual burglary or murder. He did not enter the home of Mr. Lowther. He did not lay hands upon Mr. Lowther and cause the injuries. We also represent to the court that Darrell Dukes did, from the beginning of this investigation, cooperate with law enforcement and was assistance in ascertaining what occurred in Mr. Lowther's house and who was involved in the actual murder, burglary, and robbery. And from the beginning in this matter did agree to testify against his three co-defendants and was in fact called upon to testify in two of those co-defendants' jury trials. That being said, Your Honor, while he did not participate in the actual murder, burglary, or robbery, he did agree to assist his co-conspirators in the aggravated robbery and aggravated burglary. I have reviewed these plea negotiations with the officers involved, with the family of the victim, and based upon all of that, Your Honor, it is our recommendation in our negotiated plea, pursuant to Rule 11F, that count 1 of the indictment be nolly, that a guilty plea will be entered to count 2 of the indictment, aggravated burglary, that a guilty plea will be entered to count 3 of the indictment, aggravated robbery, that a PSI will be granted, that if called upon to make a recommendation by the court, the state of Ohio would make a recommendation to the court of a maximum sentence on each of those 2 counts of 10 years in the Ohio reformatory, and that those sentences be run concurrently. Those would be the negotiations, and if called upon, the recommendations of the state of Ohio, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Vigolucci. Mr. King, is that your understanding of the plea negotiations?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Dukes, I'm going to go over some matters with you if you'll just answer yes or no out loud. Do you understand, sir? Sir, have you been informed by your attorney, do you understand the nature of the charges to which you're pleading, which would be count 2, aggravated burglary, a felony of the first degree, and count 3, aggravated robbery, a felony of the first degree?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand that each of those charges may bring with them up to 10 years in prison and a $20,000 fine in court costs on each count? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Sir, do you understand that if I impose a prison term, that would be a term certain?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you are in prison, that after your release, you will be subject to post-release control pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 2967.28?
Yes.
Do you understand if you violate the terms of your post-release control, you could receive an additional prison term not to exceed 50% of your original prison term?
Yes.
Do you understand in this particular case, there's a mandatory 5 years post-release control, and the potential penalty could be up to 10 years. Do you understand?
Yes.
Sir, do you understand at some point you may be placed under community control sanctions, and you'll have conditions to follow. If you violate any of those conditions, you could be given a longer period under court control, greater restrictions, or a prison term on each count of 10 years as a sanction. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
Sir, do you understand the effect of your guilty plea and its consequences?
Yes.
Do you accept those consequences today?
Yes.
And sir, do you understand upon accepting your guilty plea, the court may immediately receive a judgment of sentencing?
Yes.
Sir, do you understand you do have a right to a trial in this matter, either to the court or to a jury?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right today, sir?
Yes.
And sir, did you cite a certain waiver right to jury trial?
Yes.
Did you do so voluntarily? Do you understand you have the right to confront and cross-examine witnesses against you? Are you waiving that right? Do you understand you have the right to subpoena witnesses to come in and testify on your behalf? Are you waiving that right? And sir, do you understand it is the obligation of the prosecutor's office to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? Are you waiving that right? And sir, do you understand you are not required to testify against yourself? Are you waiving that right? Sir, do you understand that by entering a guilty plea, you waive your right to appeal any issue that may have been brought to trial? And you are waiving that right, sir? And sir, have you been fully advised by your attorney of the criminal rule 11F plea negotiations stated in open court? Do you accept those negotiations as your own? Sir, have you been promised, coerced, threatened in any way into entering a plea? You're doing this of your own free will? Sir, you signed a written plea of guilty waiver of right sheet, is that correct? Sir, is that your signature? Did you sign this document voluntarily? Did you review this document thoroughly with your attorney? Do you have any questions regarding anything on this document? Sir, you are a U.S. citizen, is that correct? Sir, I've briefly gone over your rights with you. I know Mr. Kane's gone over your rights with you. And you've gone over your rights in written form. Do you have any questions regarding your constitutional rights? Do you waive those rights at this time? And sir, to the charge in count 2 of aggravated burglary, felony of the first degree, how do you plead? And sir, to charge in count 3, aggravated robbery, a felony of the first degree, how do you plead? Thank you, sir. The court finds the defendant appeared in open court, was advised of his constitutional rights to set forth in his written plea, that he understood and waived said rights before entering the plea. The defendant understands the effect of the plea, and that upon accepting the plea, the court may immediately proceed with judgment and sentencing. I am convinced the defendant is entering into this plea today, knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily. Therefore, Mr. Dukes, I will accept your guilty plea to the aggravated burglary charge, felony of the first degree, make a finding of guilty. I will also accept your guilty plea to count 3, aggravated robbery, a felony of the first degree, and make a finding of guilty. On motion of the prosecutor, I will nullify the balance of the indictment, including count 1. And at this time, I am going to send you for a pre-sentence investigation through the Adult Probation Department. I will continue the bond, and I'll note for the record that the state has agreed to recommend at sentencing 10 years. Is that correct, Mr. Bigolucci?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything else at this time, Mr. King?
No, we appreciate it, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.